In an era where everyone thinks their opinions are so damn important, I'm here to give you a little piece of my mind. Welcome to Unaffiliated the Podcast with your host, B. Seth. Let's go.
If this is your book, what is this chapter in your life called?
Death.
Death. Why is that? Explain.
Because I feel like having a kid, not just having a kid, but coming to a part of my life now where I feel like the person I was can't accomplish what I need him to accomplish.
Ego death?
Ego
or
death.
Something of that?
Ego, parts of my personality, and just certain aspects of me, which, in my opinion, if you kill certain aspects of you,
right,
you know, you're not you.
You transform, right?
And so I feel like I need to be somebody else now to be able to get to where I want to go, and go to where I want to go. Cause you get to a bit of a midlife crisis after a while, cause you get settled.
What age did you hit that?
Around the start of the pandemic, like a little bit before the start of the pandemic, like maybe like 34 or 5-ish age.
Yeah.
Where you look around and life starts to feel so final. Like, damn, this is it. Like, there's nothing left.
Like, no more optimism.
No more options. So like when you're young, you're a kid. Like, kids are full of potential. A kid can be anything, and it's possible. Right. Like, Caden can be an astronaut, and it's possible. A football player is possible. When he gets 10, 12, those possibilities dwindle a little bit. You get to 18, a little more, 22, a little more, to the point where
30,
35.
That's where I'm at.
You get to the point where the possibilities have become less and less and less and less, to where it feels like I don't have any more options, and where I'm at is final. And if where you're at isn't where you want to be, that can be a pretty rough day.
Devastating
day to realize that, damn, this is it.
Right.
And that's where people kind of get to that age and try to create possibilities. They change careers on a whim, buy a Ferrari, start hanging out, clubbing, doing this crazy stuff, because they're trying to recreate those possibilities,
that feeling,
and make that child come alive again. Because they need that child to come back and save them.
Starry-eyed. Because
that's really where people, I feel like, have like a lot of depression surrounding that midlife crisis thing, is that they feel like, now this is it. And there's no more options.
This is what I've worked myself into. And if you're unhappy with it, you don't want to keep going.
You don't want to keep going. I know Jordan Peterson had a speech. I was listening to him one time, and he was just talking about that same concept of, you know, the finality of life, and being a child and having all these possibilities, and as they go down, you become depressed as an adult. Where people get around that is that he calls it choosing your sacrifice. You're going to have to kill that child part of yourself, eventually, or life is going to do it for you.
Right.
If life does it for you, that's when you're 40, 50 years old, midlife crisis, and it's not a good day. Yeah. That is a terrible day, depressive day. You can kill the child yourself early. Choose something early, getting to a lane early, and then 20 or whatever. And then you have more time in that lane to the point where you become really good at it. Yeah. And once you get to a point of mastery, options open back up. Okay. And it makes you not feel so
time crunched.
So time crunched, because you can, I don't know, like I'm a doctor. You become a doctor at 22 instead of 30. And then by the time you're 30, you feel like you've mastered to the point where I have so many options to go so many ways because I'm just 30. Yeah. As opposed to letting life choose, and then you get into your lane at 33, 34. Right. And then by the time you feel like you're at a mastery level, you're 45, 50, and because of your age, you feel like those same options didn't blossom. So his point was, the earlier you start, the more you can create options later in life, and it kind of helps with that depression.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
So at this point, it's death and rebirth and figuring out who I am now and how I want to move forward
from here,
especially with a kid.
Yeah.
Damn,
that's some deep stuff. I like that.
Yeah. Right,
I agree.
Been doing a lot of thinking. Been in my head a lot lately.
Yeah,
it's crazy up there. Even you start getting into your own head,
learning yourself so I don't want to say scary, but damn, it's eye opening. It's eye opening how much I didn't really know myself until I started doing that. And just seeing the things, I think that's Caden right there, ain't it?
Yeah.
And just seeing the things that trigger me and make me respond a certain way, the things that have put me in a certain emotional space or mental space. It's crazy when you break yourself down, but I think it's so important. It's almost like that necessary evil. Like you said, you have to kill that kid. I think that's so true.
Yeah, man. And it's like being able to take self-inventory is probably one of the greatest skills you can have for success and moving forward in life, because too many times we ignore those weaknesses and they don't go away.
They don't.
And then if you
don't acknowledge them.
You're sweeping under the rug.
Right.
After a while, that dirt pile under the rug gets so big, you get a lump.
You see it.
Yeah. You start to see it.
And
then
you have to do something.
And having to face it after it's accumulated is much more difficult to get to a resolution.
That's true.
But it's hard looking in on yourself, because you have to admit stuff to yourself.
Yeah.
That, I'm not as strong as I thought I was, or I pretend to be, or maybe I am sensitive. Maybe my feelings are hurt when someone does this or says this, and then you feel like a less of a person, and then you get mad with yourself because you've been fronting the whole time. And sometimes there's a little bit of resentment of where you are in life because you feel like you didn't.
That's what I was about to say. Do you think it always comes back to like a success conversation, or like what have you produced at this point? What have you created? What does your bank account look like? Do you think it usually, at least for men, do you think it usually comes full circle there? Because we're so accustomed historically to be providers. Yeah,
I think most men, it comes back to money, success, some kind of way, because that's the barometer by which society
gauges us. Right.
So like society, Kevin Samuel says it a lot, society really gauges men on what you can produce and what you can provide.
Exactly.
Like only women and children get loved unconditionally.
Facts.
But when's the last time you seen a man that wasn't working, wasn't producing, wasn't providing, that people loved him anyway?
Have a whole movement on the internet. Never.
A whole movement on never. You never will. When you see homeless men on the street, there's not the same level of concern as if you see a homeless woman on the street or homeless children on the street.
Facts.
When they see a homeless man, why ain't you got a job?
Right. Are you messed up?
McDonald's hiring. You can go. You can go in there and get a job at McDonald's, can't you, or something like that? So I think that adds to a lot of men's stress. Like men, I think men feel kind of forgotten about.
Well, you feel less like a man if you can't do those quote unquote man things.
Yeah.
Which is, again, provide, have a certain level of production in your life, productivity, X, Y, and Z. Like, those are the things that really define who we are. It's like, I was thinking the other day, like, there's a lot of geniuses in the world, right? Artistically, scientifically, whatever. But I think another aspect of being a genius is people recognizing that you're a genius. Because, you can call yourself a genius all day. You might be. But I think it's not really validated until it's two-sided. And a lot of people don't make it to that other side. So now imagine all the people who feel like that don't have that confirmation from the other side because they never produced anything.
Never produced nothing to get that validation.
To get the validation. Not that the validation is that important, but can you call yourself that if you haven't produced anything?
For some people,
you can be a genius. You could be the best singer, rapper, whatever in the world, architect, if you've never done anything, are you that?
I guess the question is, was Einstein not a genius all the way up until the point where his theory of relativity was accepted?
He was a genius, but we would not acknowledge him as a genius because his genius didn't impact us.
So are you a genius if your genius never has an impactful...
I think it's a waste of genius.
So you're not a genius?
You're a genius, but your genius is wasted. And nobody will ever know you're a genius. It's almost like
almost like you're not a genius.
Yeah, essentially, might as well not be. Because, you know, it's like that whole saying, I don't know, it's some spiritual saying, God gifted us life, and what we do with our life is the gift of God, something like that. I think that's true in any facet, whatever it is, whether it's being a doctor, lawyer, artist. I think how we use that and how we impact the world is kind of how we will go down in history or whatever, or no matter how big or how small. That's our legacy.
Do you think that's why a lot of people deal with like anxiety, depression later in life, because they feel like it's a wasted life?
Yes.
I would agree.
Because there is a level of confirmation, and I'm not saying you do it for that, but it just kind of solidifies everything.
Man, I think people we've evolved to be a part of a community. So people, whether they like to admit it or not, they yearn for that kind of connection, that kind of communal bond. So if you think you're a genius and you're the only one that thinks it, I don't think that's enough for most people.
It's not.
I think most people will front and be like people. I used to front, but I don't care what nobody say. I do me. Man, low key, you care.
I mean, it's like, it's okay to do you, but again, if you're not impactful, if you're not making a difference to some extent, what are you doing?
Nothing.
What are you doing?
Nothing.
Like, what's that? Knowledge isn't power. It's the application of knowledge that's power.
So can you be a genius without having the ability to apply your genius?
I don't think so.
If you just have a good idea.
Nope. Because maybe part of that genius is also conveying the genius.
That's what I was going to say, because sometimes, like, the smartest people, the best technicians are like terrible teachers. And if you're unable to really put it in a way where you can teach other people,
right?
And, like you said, express that, are you not really a genius then?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good one.
Some deep
I was thinking that the other day. I don't know what made me think about that, but it's like, you can say you're a genius all day. You can feel like you're a genius. You can know you're a genius. But until that other side also acknowledges that, I don't think it's true genius.
I would agree.
Be sure to follow Unaffiliated the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and now on YouTube.